welcome back. I'm Cognac Wellerlane, and we are here at the inaugural Legacy of Hope Sunset cocktail reception celebrating the commitment of the Knights of Malta to the sick and poor, right here at the Rogers Mansion, the Southampton Historical Museum. And I am here with one of the representatives of this Knights of Malta, and he's going to introduce himself to the camera.
Hi, my name is Daniel Gullo. I am a curator of the Malta Study Center at the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library, and I am here to help support the event and to promote not only the legacy of hope, but also the cultural preservation that our museum and library are engaging in the world today.
Tell my audience about this charity. I understand that it's probably one of the oldest charities in existence. Can you explain to my audience a little bit more about that?
Sure. The Order of the Knights of Malta, which were originally known as the Knights of St. John of the Hospital, were founded in the 12th century, originally as a group of people, lay people, who had dedicated themselves to caring for pilgrims and the sick in the city of Jerusalem during the time of the First Crusade. And they have been dedicated to this pursuit for the existence of the order. They did become a chivalrous order and a military order during the Middle Ages, but during the 19th century they rededicated themselves to solely caring for the sick and the needy and the poor throughout the world.
How interesting. And of course you're doing something here today which is very specific, and that is also raising funds for this charity. Tell my audience what we're going to be actually seeing here this evening.
I believe what we'll be seeing here is a wonderful gathering of the Order of the Knights of Malta and members of the Southampton community and the greater community of New York. And we will be having a small auction to help benefit the Malteser International, which is the primary organization hosting the event. We will have live music, which will be very nice. We have two exhibits which are being put into the Southampton Historical Museum, one dedicated to the history of Malteser International, and another exhibit created by the Malta Study Center, which is about the history of the order and the 900th anniversary, which took place last year.
Wow, that amazing, 900 years.
900
that is
years,
really, really something amazing. You wonder if they had people like me, a journalist, talking. Of course, they didn't have what we have today, and that's video. But I wonder if they had all of that. They must have had something, some kind of news thing going on at the time.
Well, the one thing that they did was really quite remarkable, because traveling to the Middle East at that period was not only dangerous, but also very complex. And so people who went would record their histories and chronicles and a history of their journey, like a modern diary or a travel journal, and they would take that back with them to Europe, and then it would be reproduced by hand in manuscripts and disseminated across Europe. Also, it was very common for people to write letters, very long letters detailing what they were seeing and all of the sights, and send them back to their loved ones, usually their wives, who were living in Europe at the time, to let them know that they were okay, but also to the remarkable things that they were seeing in their day. We have a very large collection of materials from that period, believe it or not.
So, as you could see, that was the history of journalism, and here we are now in the 21st century, and I'm doing what they were doing, only a much more high-tech, advanced way.
Yes, it's obviously more high-tech, but it did speed up quite a bit, of course, in the 15th century with the invention of the printing press. And at that time, they were not only able to disseminate the information more quickly, but the Order of the Knights of Malta were able to spread throughout Europe quite quickly their activities in the Mediterranean during the 15th and the 16th centuries, just because of the printing press. So what we're doing now is just another legacy of technological innovation.
Yes. Now, is this the very first event that you guys are having in the Hamptons, or have you done these? Have you done charity galas here before?
My personal center, the Malta Study Center, this is our first event here in the Hamptons, and I believe
Fabulous.
And I think for Malteser International, it is their first event also. There's a very large community of Knights of Malta in the greater New York area, and I know that we are planning on doing more events in the future. Hopefully within about a year or so, we want to have a musical event dedicated to the history of the music of the Knights that was produced in the Baroque period, and hopefully we'll be able to bring that here also.
Well, you're going to love the Hamptons. I'm sure you're liking it already, I would think. Where exactly are you from?
I'm actually from Niagara Falls, New York, but I've been living for the last several years in Chicago. My center is located in Minnesota, but this is my very first time to Long Island and the Hamptons.
What do you think, darling?
I've had a very wonderful day. I had a spectacular day walking around the town, and I enjoyed visiting several of the sites and the history, and
It's gorgeous,
it's
isn't it?
actually spectacular. I very much love my time here. I wish I
Well,
could spend more.
Long Islanders welcome you here, and I hope you raise a lot of money tonight. Tell my audience where we can go to support, where we can go to contribute, and where we can go to participate. What is the website?
For tonight, for the Malteser International event, it's best to go to malteserinternational.org. And if you are interested, and they are primarily working with the help of refugees and humanitarian crisis. If you're interested in the Malta Study Center and cultural preservation around the world, that would be www.hmml.org. And we engage in cultural preservation in Syria, Iraq, Mali, Western Europe, Malta itself, preserving the cultural heritage of peoples who are threatened during a time of war.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Keep watching. More interviews in the Hamptons. Pink champagne kisses. Darlings, I'm Cognac Wellerlane, and we are here at the Sunset Cocktail Reception, all for the Knights of Malta, right here at the Rogers Mansion, the Southampton Historical Museum. And I'm here with this individual who is a big supporter of the Knights of Malta. Introduce yourself to the camera, darling.
Sure, I'm Stephen Krawciw. I am actually a Knight of Malta in the American Association.
And you're also part of the order, right?
Yes, I'm a member of the Order of Malta, which you call yourself a Knight of the Order of Malta in the American Association. And very happy to be here. This is the inaugural event in Southampton. And
yes,
we are
the very first.
Yes, we're supporting a wonderful organization that are the first responders into some of the hardest hit countries from tsunamis and hurricanes, and we're here to spread the news of the good work, because very few people in the United States know about Malteser, even though I think it may be the second largest such organization after American Red Cross, solely focused on going into war zones and humanitarian crises.
What do you think was the most difficult? Of course, you've done so much work with Sandy and some of the other, this recent one, Typhoon, in the Philippines. That must have been such a travesty. I mean, dealing with that, I would think it would be 10 times worse than Sandy.
It was 10 times worse than Sandy. The infrastructure of the country was wiped out, so having clean water was not available. Children had nowhere to go to school. And so the Malteser International is still in the Philippines working on restoring critical infrastructure, as well as dealing with the sick, the trauma that follows such an event.
How long do you think it will take for them to be completely recovered? I would think it could even take a whole year, or maybe several years.
Yeah, Malteser doesn't have a start and end date to when they're involved in a place like the Philippines. They may be there for years. It could take a decade for the country to fully recover and for the need for Malteser to go its distance.
How did you become involved with this organization? Why did you become involved?
I have a personal connection with humanitarian activity. I've volunteered all over the world. I did work for Nelson Mandela's government in South Africa in the late 90s. And, I think that there is a lot of good that can come out of individual efforts. And finding this organization has really helped crystallize for me a way to make an impact on people. It's small enough that you can have a direct impact. And the history that extends through 900 years of charitable activity is something that is really quite special.
Well, you're a very special person to donate all of this time for the organization. Can you tell my audience where we could go to learn more information, how we can support and contribute?
Sure, if you just Google Malteser International, you'll see a wonderful website that has full information on everything that's happening right now all around the world for Malteser, and you can donate on that site.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a moment. Don't go away yet. We'll be back in a moment with more interviews right here in the Hamptons. Keep watching Pink Champagne Kisses.
One of a kind girl. This has been a Crybaby Productions, darlings.